In the history of the NBA, many teams were blessed to have one legendary center in their team history. There was Bill Russell for the Celtics, Wilt Chamberlain for the 76ers and later on for the Lakers, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the Bucks and the Lakers, Hakeem Olajuwon for the Rockets, Patrick Ewing for the Knicks, Alonzo Mourning for the Heat, David Robinson for the Spurs, and Yao Ming for the Rockets. Dominating centers were a valuable commodity back then, as the game hadn't expanded yet to the 3-and-D format that we have today. The game was more focused on defense, power, and physicality, and less three-point shots that we are seeing today. During the 90s, if you didn't have Michael Jordan, the other prevailing championship formula was having a dominant big man. The Orlando Magic happened to have probably the most dominating big man the game has ever seen at the time, who's just about to enter his prime years, Shaquille O'Neal. But they managed to let him walk away for nothing in a very, very embarrassing way. Here's how Orlando senselessly lost Shaq to the LA Lakers when all the odds were stacked in their favor to retain one of the greatest centers the world has ever seen. The Magic drafted O'Neal first overall in the 1992 NBA draft. At 7'1" and over 300 pounds, drafting Shaq was a no-brainer. Although there were more established college stars in the draft like Mourning and Christian Laettner, the Magic's front office was right in taking O'Neal as the first pick. Shaq averaged 23.4 points and 13.9 rebounds per game in his first season and won the NBA Rookie of the Year award. The following year, despite having the lowest odds in the draft, the Magic won the first overall pick of the 1993 NBA draft. It was the second year in a row that they've won the draft lottery. They drafted Memphis guard Anthony Hardaway to form one of the best center guard combos in the game. Together, Shaq and Penny led the Magic to the 1994 playoffs, the 1995 NBA Finals, and the 1996 Eastern Conference Finals. They were the hottest team in the NBA, taking over the league by storm, especially in the wake of Michael Jordan's first retirement and the dismantlement of the Bulls' first championship team. During the 1994-95 season, they won 22 of their first 27 games. By All-Star break, they were sitting on a 37-10 record. They finished the season with a 39-2 record at home, tied for second best in NBA history, that put them first in the Eastern Conference standings. Shaq continued to post dominating numbers with 29.3 points, 11.4 rebounds, and 2.4 blocks per game. Hardaway also had MVP-level stats with 20.9 points, 7.2 assists, and 1.7 steals per game. Both O'Neal and Hardaway were named to the All-Star Game selections and have earned All-NBA honors. They also finished 2nd and 10th respectively in the MVP voting. They made their way to the NBA Finals but were swept by Olajuwon and the Rockets. The following year, they made it through the Eastern Conference Finals but were swept by a rejuvenated Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Despite coming up short in back-to-back years, the Magic were still a young team and could still compete for championships for many years to come. O'Neal was only 24 years old and Penny, 25. They were a budding dynasty. But having two alpha males on a team, pride and ego got in the way of continued team success. Eventually, Orlando became too small for O'Neal and Hardaway. You can only have one king. And that's where the Magic committed probably the most dreadful mistake in franchise history. They egregiously failed to recognize the right alpha male to choose. They offered O'Neal a 4-year, $54 million deal, which is way below his true market value. In comparison, Mourning and Juwan Howard, both great players, but obviously inferior compared to O'Neal, got deals worth 7 years and $105 million in that same free agency year. Shaq's free agency was for Orlando to lose. They had his bird rights, meaning they could exceed the salary cap to re-sign him while everyone else had to get him under the cap, which meant a full roster gutting. There were no max salary and luxury tax penalties, as those were the products of the 1998 lockout. They could have basically handed Shaq a blank check and still not incurred the luxury tax payments that present teams would today. All they had to do was offer O'Neal the maximum amount available according to his stature, and it would have easily been a done deal. Instead, they lowballed him. Almost offensively so. What makes matters worse and laughable is that the Magic tried to gain some form of leverage on Shaq by criticizing his game, particularly his rebounding and defense. Never mind the fact that O'Neal averaged more rebounds, 12.5 per game, while in Orlando than he had while with the Lakers, 11.8. When you have a guy who, in his first 4 years in the league, won Rookie of the Year honor and a scoring title, been named to the All-NBA team thrice, been a league MVP runner-up, brought your team to your first ever finals appearance, and who had a habit of breaking backboards, you bend over backwards just to retain him. But that wasn't the tone that the Magic set in its negotiations with O'Neal. They made it clear to Shaq that Hardaway was the priority by saying that they were maintaining financial flexibility for Penny's upcoming free agency 2 years down the road. The Magic didn't seem to appreciate O'Neal's franchise-altering talent, and their actions have verified it. They became antagonists to their franchise star rather than an organization that was completely on his side. The 1996 free agent class was star-studded. Jordan, Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo, Gary Payton, Reggie Miller, Dennis Rodman, and O'Neal. Jordan obviously was the crown jewel of that free agency, but no one believed that he would actually leave the Bulls. That's why O'Neal was the next best thing. O'Neal considered many teams like the New York Knicks, Atlanta Hawks, Detroit Pistons, and the Miami Heat, but none of those talks materialized. Enter Jerry West and the Los Angeles Lakers. To be able to afford O'Neal, West did one of the most virtuoso draft day maneuvers in NBA history by trading fan-favorite Divac to the Charlotte Hornets for then 18-year-old phenom Kobe Bryant. Not only did the Lakers get Bryant, but also the $3.3 million extra cap space that was needed in order to sign O'Neal. The interest was mutual. The Lakers had a storied history with legendary centers and were pitching for O'Neal to be the next great Laker big. Meanwhile, O'Neal wanted to play for a contender and a large market to explore off-the-court opportunities that could grow his brand. The Lakers were closing in. But what's baffling is the way the Magic reacted to those developments. They were only reacting to what the current offer on the table is for Shaq and not to what would be commensurate with his value to the franchise. They were about to lose the greatest thing that ever happened to their franchise since joining the league in 1989, and they were still nitpicking. They only re-upped their initial offer after the Lakers traded George Lynch and Anthony Peeler to free up more cap space and strengthen their position to sign O'Neal. It was bewildering. The final nail in the Magic's coffin was the Orlando Sentinel poll that the team put up that asked Orlando residents if Shaq was worth $115 million. 91% of the 5,000-plus respondents said no, and the results were posted on a billboard that O'Neal's mom Lucille could see from her office. Shaq, as huge a superstar as he is, was human too. Not only did the team tell him he was not worth the money, the fans told him the same thing. It pushed Shaq over the edge. It was time to go. The Lakers closed the deal by offering Shaq a 7-year, $120 million deal with an opt-out after the third year. The Magic tried a last-minute effort to lure away Shaq from the Lakers, but at that point, all the goodwill that existed between O'Neal and the Magic was gone. Shaq didn't want to leverage the Lakers' offer against Orlando anymore. He was done with the Magic and was ready to sign with LA. Florida may not have a state income tax while California's was one of the highest, but that didn't matter anymore with the way Orlando had handled the negotiations. 2 days before the start of the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, where O'Neal would play for Team USA, a press conference was held to announce the deal. The rest was history. O'Neal and Bryant went on to win 3 straight titles for the Lakers while injuries derailed Penny Hardaway's career. The Magic wound up trading him to the Phoenix Suns in 1999, 3 years after choosing him over O'Neal. They could have been one of the greatest NBA dynasties ever assembled had the team and the fans didn't push O'Neal away. Instead, they were relegated to being probably number one on the list of the greatest what-ifs in team sports history.